Okay.
Cool.
Hi.
All right, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, tell me about Gwen as a child. How did you grow
Gwen
up?
as a child.
Yeah. What were your dreams and hopes?
Well, I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was little. I loved horses and I loved all animals. Later on, I wanted to be a pop star. Didn't quite work out. Then I wanted to become an ambassador. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. I wanted to become an ambassador mostly because I grew up bicultural in Germany, born and raised as an American and a German. And it was, I had a wonderful life. Don't get me wrong, but it was challenging at times. Challenging because I never really quite knew where I fit in. So, you go through the teenage years and, teenagers are trying to figure out who they are. But I think being bicultural was a little more challenging because on top of that, you're trying to figure out, are you more German? Are you more American? Where do you fit in? And I was bullied in school. I was kind of I was not the popular girl, let's put it that way. And that made it very challenging and difficult to figure out where I belonged. And I always told my parents, I said, one of these days I'm just going to start my own colony in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. I'm going to find an island and I'm just going to create my own country because I just didn't belong. I didn't feel that way. And so it took me a long time. I think that's why I ended up getting into international relations and I wanted to become an ambassador because I wanted to negotiate peace agreements and bring people together and have them really foster a greater understanding and have them appreciate each other and their differences and their unique assets and skills a little more.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit more about the bullying. Like, what would you say to someone who's being bullied now or to the bully themselves? Like, now that you have found your voice a little bit, like, would you say...
To the person who's being bullied, I would probably just offer the advice that it has nothing to do with them as a person, right? You're being bullied because it has more to do with the bully and their personal situation than it has to do with you yourself. And so as much as you want to lash out and you want to cry and you want to scream, maybe you should just to let go of those emotions, but approach the bully with love and kindness and compassion and more of a sense of curiosity because you want to understand why that bully is acting the way he or she is.
Right.
And it actually ends up being very enlightening. Once you discover that it has nothing to do with you as a person, it doesn't devalue you, it doesn't make you worth less or less lovable. It has more to do with the bully and the emotions or the situations or the circumstances that he or she is going through.
Right. So let's talk about how that's manifested in adulthood, right? In the workplace, right? So not being authentically you, we've talked a little bit about that before. So how did that shape who you are?
So I mentioned the bicultural piece. That was challenging, right? I think once I left Germany for good, I was in a really bad spot back then. I was just off the beaten path, hanging out with people I should not be spending time with, and got myself into a lot of trouble. And I really was at the bottom, the lowest low point that you can imagine. And I was able to reinvent myself and really get in touch with who I really am by moving to the United States. And so I went to college at Skidmore, and Skidmore was the best thing that could have happened to me. It was wonderful. And I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I was able to discover really who I am and own who I am. And yet there was still a part of me who always felt like I had to change who I am in the work environment. I remember meeting a couple of students who, were talking about the fields of study that we're in, and they were saying they're in women's studies, and I kind of laughed at them a little bit because I thought, like, what are you going to do with women's studies, right? What can you do with that? And they were talking to me about sexual harassment and gender discrimination and how women just don't have equal pay, and it's really tough, these days. And I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it until I went out into the work world, and I witnessed it myself. So I witnessed, the discrimination and anything from little comments here and there that make you feel lesser than or make you feel like you don't really have a voice or make you feel like you're not an equal, all the way to sexual harassment, discrimination. It really runs the gamut. And so I oftentimes heard, a lot of, Gwen, you're too bubbly, Gwen, you're too colorful, Gwen, you're too feminine, you're too this, you're too that. And it was really difficult. And I didn't hear it just from men, by the way. I heard it from women also. And just made me very sad because I felt like I always had to suppress a part of who I am. And it took a very long time, right? It took a very long time to get to a point where you own your history, you own your mistakes, you own your hurt and your pain, but you own also, everything that makes you you, your bubbly personality, right? Your, I love high heels, I love, wearing feminine clothes, but why shouldn't you? It doesn't mean that you have to be that way, but you should just be who you are and just be your authentic you.
Do you remember the shifts? Like, when did that shift? Do you remember the small shifts that happened, or was it a big shift?
I was lots of small shifts.
Shifts, yeah.
I forget who the speaker was, but she was talking about the concept of micro-resilience,
Yes. Yeah.
Oftentimes you like to think of, there's, this big moment in your life that just radically changed everything. And I don't know if that was really it. Mm-hmm. I think there are a lot of different situations that just forced you to reevaluate, not just yourself and how you are, but also everybody around you. Right. Yeah, I'm trying to think of one specific. Oh, I remember, so one of my former employers, so actually a lot of it had to do with a couple of my employers, but a former manager of mine who I love and respect and admire very much. But he said to me one day, this was a year into my job, and he said, Gwen, I want to talk to you about this meeting that we just had. And I don't even know how it came up, but he basically told me that the dress I was wearing was inappropriate for that specific meeting. And I said, well, what's wrong with the dress? It's Calvin Klein and it's a work dress and it looks professional in my opinion. And, why shouldn't I be able to wear a red work dress? Calvin Klein certainly thought it was work appropriate. And he basically told me, he said it's too colorful and it's, and you need to conform, and not those words, but essentially he said you need to conform, you need to, adapt to the situation, you need to know what's appropriate when and where. And I do agree with that assessment to a certain extent. You have to make sure that if you're speaking to an audience of kids, you're not going to, wear maybe a business suit because that might be intimidating to them, but you have to really adapt to the situation. But he then went on to tell me that when we met initially, which was for coffee, that's how we were connected, and it ended up turning into a job. I had no idea what he looked like. I just set up this coffee meeting. And apparently I was leaning against a building and I was looking at my phone, wondering maybe he texted me because he was late. And he said he saw me from afar and he thought to himself, there's no way in hell that I'm going to hire this girl. And he told me that. He told me that a year into the job, and I was so devastated by it because, first of all, who says that? Right. And second of all, why would you tell me that? Mm-hmm. And third of all, why would you even think that? And I just realized it had to do with, I don't know, maybe it was the color, maybe it was the blonde, maybe it was whatever it may be, but people have these preconceived notions about who you are, and they like to label you immediately without getting to know you. Mm-hmm. And that was one really defining moment. And it actually made me really sad for a very long time. I did not enjoy going back to work. Mm-hmm. I felt like, I couldn't be myself. I couldn't really bring my best to work every day. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of those defining moments. And then, a few others also, just being sexually harassed by superiors, and when you're in your early 20s, you don't really know what to do about that. You don't really know how to express yourself or how to voice your concern or opposition. It takes a long time for you to develop and own your worth. I think I would have approached these kinds of situations very differently now.
Absolutely.
Than I did then.
And is that why you've started your new company? I'd love to hear about your new company and
yes.
what you're doing with that, and I think maybe that has shaped it.
Yeah. No. So my new company is called Culture Links. It's a play on words, actually. Links is Lynx. It's a play on words between links, linking cultures, and Lynx the cat. So I like to say I bring my playfulness, my boldness, and my creativity to the game. And I think it's just a representation of my personality kind of coming out there. But Lynx is also, as I was researching it a little more, I kind of fell into that word. It's not like I was looking for it initially, but I was researching it a little more. And Lynx is actually a mythological creature known for its lucid and clear eyes and its ability to unravel hidden truths. And I just thought, exactly this is it. I'm building this into my narrative. So Culture Links is about, it's really a people and culture business, and it's about transforming cultures within corporations and organizations. And the general idea behind it is, diversity and inclusion. Everybody knows about it. We all generally understand why diversity and inclusion is important, but we oftentimes don't really know how to go about it. So corporations that have very diverse workforces or a talent base that is very diverse, whether it be gender or culture or generation, right? There's so much diversity, and it's not just ethnic. It's not just ethnic.
Yeah.
But we have so many talents and so many skill sets, and our people are our greatest asset. And sometimes when we have diversity, we just don't know how to harness it.
Right.
And so the idea is to figure out how do we work better together, understanding who we are and what we bring to the table.
I love
so
it. And
that is the business in short.
Right. And you're starting a new group, possibly? Do you want to talk about that yet?
Yeah. It just occurred to me the other day, right? I had a mentor actually talk to me about, you just started this diversity inclusion business. Have you thought about, how you're going to approach things? And I kind of talked to him a little bit about the model that I had in mind, but knowing that it is right now just a one-woman operation. But, over the course of the last 4 months, it's been such a humbling experience. I've met so many wonderful and kind people, and actually a lot of really interesting people of different backgrounds who are also passionate about diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
Now, I know that I'm a blonde white girl, and I exude white privilege. I've been told over and over again, Gwen, good luck with this. You are going to have a hard time making a difference in diversity and inclusion because you're not Black and you're not Latino and you're not Hispanic, you're not Asian. I think there's a place for everybody there, and everybody should have a voice in this space. And so as I was meeting all these people, I recognized everybody has a different angle and a different niche that they've carved out in their space. And so wouldn't it be great if we all got together and we got to know each other a little more? Great. And we could, start what I like to call a sister tribe.
Love it.
A sister tribe, lots of powerful women. Maybe it starts with women, and we have men slowly but surely. We don't ever want to exclude.
Exactly right. That's cool. So let's switch gears for a minute and talk about the Hammock Way of Life for a little bit.
Yes.
About a year ago we met and
we
did a vision board together. And apparently you did 2 of them after that meeting. And so talk to me about the Hammock Way of Life and vision boarding and how things are manifesting through your vision board.
Yeah, so it's funny when I met you. I was kind of laughing because I've always been a big fan of vision boarding since my friend Lorraine introduced it to me. She's a big believer. And we sat at my friend Lorraine's house one day, and this was, I think, right before I met you. I'm going to say it was before I met you. Maybe it was right after. Yeah. But we just sat at her house, and we were drinking wine, we were eating popcorn out of dog bowls. It was a thing. We had magazines just all over the table, and we just started making these collages, right, just out of pictures that we found in magazines. And Lorraine always told me, this is our vision boarding session, and I kind of really didn't think about it much. I was like, well, it's a creative exercise. If anything, I'll have a fun collage at the end of the day, right? And lo and behold, it just came together. And the vision board, which I created in March last year, so that was 2018, half of it really was a picture of a full moon, which I'll tell you about the significance in a second, but it was a full moon, and then I had a picture of Saratoga Lake and a cabin, and then there was a blonde woman who represented me, and then a brown-haired, a brunette man, and that represented the person I was going to fall in love with. And then I had a picture of a husky there. Yeah. So the idea behind it, and Lorraine told me, she said, you have to verbalize it, otherwise it's not going to become true. Sure. So I walked her through it and explained, I was kind of joking or laughing, just joking around. But I told her about the full moon, which was, to me, the significance is, my name is Gwendolyn. When I was a little girl, I found out that actually originates from the Celts. Is it Celts or Celts? Anyways, Celtic tradition. Yeah. And Gwendolyn was actually the moon goddess because it means white ring. Huh. And white ring is, the moon goddess because of the white glow that emanates from the full moon. So there was something really magic about that.
That's cool.
When I found out as a little girl. So I was just drawn to this picture, and I just threw it on this vision board. And I love Saratoga Lake, and I've always wanted to have a cabin in the Adirondacks, so I put that on there. And, after a series of not-so-healthy relationships, I decided, it was time. This is my wish list right here. I'm going to meet a man, and he's going to be the most beautiful, incredible person in the world, and he's going to love me exactly for who I am. All the complexities and, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He's just going to love me and respect me, and he's going to be smart and talented and kind. And the reason why I added the husky or the wolf on there was I told Lorraine, I said he's going to have the most beautiful wolf eyes. They're going to be green, and he's going to have brown hair. And that was kind of it, right? We kind of laughed it off.
Okay.
And then lo and behold, was it a couple months later, I ended up walking, to my car from work, and I ended up meeting my wolf. I met my wolf. And it was really cute the way it happened. We both walked out the turnstiles at the same time. We actually both snuck out early to go to a happy hour. And the security guards were making fun of me, saying, where do you think you're going, Gwen? Right, looking at their watch. And I said, hey, I've got an important meeting to go to. And I heard a voice behind me saying, what kind of meeting are you going to? Because I'm going to one too. And so I turned around, and there he was.
Awesome.
And so we started chatting, and it was so crazy. It was just something about him. I just knew. I just knew. And I called Lorraine as soon as I got in my car, and I said, Lorraine, I just met the wolf. And so there's a whole beautiful follow-up story, but basically our first date, which happened several months later, it took a little while because, lots of moving parts and pieces, but our first date was actually kayaking under the full moon on Saratoga Lake.
How about that? That's awesome.
And a few weeks after that, we actually spent a weekend in the Adirondacks in a cabin that looked just like the one that I had on my vision board. So call it crazy, but it happened.
You wish for, right?
So that was vision board number one. Yep. And then there were a couple other vision boards in between. That also, parts of it came true. And then the very last one, I created a few weeks ago. And that one is actually in the process of being fulfilled as we speak.
Great.
I really wanted to get into diversity and inclusion, as I mentioned, and it really was because of my own personal upbringing between two cultures and as a woman in male-dominated work environments and as a millennial on the cusp of two generations, I guess. I feel like I have a lot to contribute, and I really wanted to make it happen. It's just a passion and a dream of mine, and so half of my vision board is split into, what happens after you meet that special someone, love and marriage. He's gonna be so embarrassed. No, there's that part, and then the other part is really focused on the work. And I took a picture I cut out a picture from a magazine, and I want to say it was a Maybelline commercial, and I just had, or an advertisement from Maybelline, and I just had pictures of a whole bunch of different women on there, and it was probably for lipstick or something. And there's an African-American woman in the middle, and then there's a whole bunch of other women around, and, they're mostly white, but Asian, also, lighter skin colored. But the idea behind it was, diversity and inclusion, that's really what it represented. And then I just, I had a couple of words on there like bold and creative and brave and, pioneer and integrator and all these things. And this is your year to shine. And I was kind of like amping myself up.
Okay.
And lo and behold, I lost my job. This year. And it was very devastating. It was devastating to my sense of self-worth. Sure. And you don't realize how much of your identity is tied to a corporation or your affiliation or whatever you're working for. And in the end, I realized it was a blessing because it gave me time to reevaluate what was important to me and what my true passion was. And it wasn't really about thinking it. It was about just allowing just creativity to just flow and just, it's like listening inside of you without thinking. And all of a sudden, it's like the answer just magically appeared. I just realized, wow, I'm not in the Foreign Service. I'm not an ambassador. I'm not negotiating peace agreements and saving, world hunger. But in a way, all my life experiences, kind of the zigzag, the twists and the turns that your life takes, have brought you to this present moment. And you realize all of a sudden, it's like everything makes sense. Yeah. Everything makes sense. And you just realize the path forward. And you stop being afraid. I was so afraid of kind of making the wrong decision and being left outside of this comfort zone of, the benefits and the 401k and the health insurance and what am I going to do and where's my money going to come from? All that was just all of a sudden was gone. And I just realized diversity and inclusion is what I want to do. Yeah. So Culture Links was born. Culture Links was born.
So you found your life purpose.
I have. And it might, I think it all kind of just changes, right? It changes over time. I don't think you're really stuck on one life's purpose. Right. I think there's always opportunity to grow and to move and to adapt. But
Absolutely.
this is it.
I love it. I love it. So no humming, singing, anything? Just hum a few
No,
bars,
I'm
nothing?
too embarrassed. We talk about finding my voice. I found my voice. I'm working on finding my voice musically.
Okay, good.
It's been a work in progress.
Good. Okay.
But
We'll watch.
I did realize I have found my voice in other ways, and I am going to write a book.
Great.
Because I have so much more to say, and so much more to share.
Can't wait.
So,
Lovely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be great.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Anything else you want to add?
Just, don't be scared. Don't be afraid. It's just everything's going to work out.
Awesome. Thanks, Gwen.
Thank you.